Hiya, guys. Day 2 of testing. Little bit late, but I gotta spread the content out a little, you know what I mean? There's no testing this week. Testing's back next week. So, a little bit late is what it is. We still get to talk about the bosses. So we tested 3 bosses on day 2. This was the first one. We also, this might look familiar, tested this on the first day for about, 10 minutes or so, before Blizzard took it down. And this one looked interesting, but we didn't really get it. This time around, we did understand, though. So, essentially, every time you get hit by this beam here, if you're targeted, it's red. If you're not targeted, it's blue. You might have seen that earlier if I scroll a little bit back. Right here, this blue line over here, right? So if you're not targeted, it's blue. If you're targeted, it's red. You get out of the raid, and then it dashes through you. So it's gonna land behind me, and now I have a debuff on my character. When that debuff expires, I'm gonna pop out orbs. So I'm gonna get my things up, and then boom, shakalaka, I'm gonna explode on the raid because I'm a menace. I actually get out. But yeah, you explode the orbs, rinse, repeat, right? If you get hit by any of the orbs, I think you also get the debuff. The important thing about where you place it, right? I remember how I said it dashes through you, it lands behind you. And that's where these portals are going to show up. And these portals pull you towards them. So if you're, for example, like I just shadow stepped here, I'm between all the portals, right? So there's a portal on my right, portal on my left, portal in front of me. And so it's not really pulling me that much, but now if I step to the boss, you'll see all the portals are behind me. So they all like build on top of each other. And this is brutal. So it's important that you spread out these dashes. So you can't have everyone dashing to one side. You see Agnar over here is putting his right here. But then we also have a portal here, and the boss spawns a portal. So that's 3 portals in close vicinity. And that is going to be a pretty rough pull. It also makes this harder to dodge, right? Because they're all close to you. And it fans out, so having them on opposite sides of the room, also easier. It's just, in general, a lot easier to dodge stuff and not spawn these balls, and it's just better for everyone involved, right? So you'll see, we go into the intermission, saved the intermission beforehand, doesn't spawn orbs, doesn't spawn the portals. So the bad placement would have screwed us over. We go into the mission, it's fine because they don't spawn it, they despawn. Intermission, very similar to Rashok, but you have the Farok lines, right? The blazes from Farok. They are a little chubbier, but they're shorter. So it's a little bit easier to dodge, but other than that, it's just Farok mixed with a Rashok intermission. Now, it is a DPS race. So after, I think, the second or third intermission, just like Rashok, eventually E-intermission will be forever. And then it'll harden rage, and you won't be able to dodge anything anymore. It'll just fill the entire room and one-shot you. So very similar to Rashok in that regard. And this is placed as a DPS check boss in the raid. This is the boss that basically would be in the same spot as Smolderon or a Sludge Fist, famously, right? This is the DPS check boss, the third to last, or right? Yeah, third to last. So it's not Tindril, it's not a Farok boss, not an end boss, but it is in that kind of progression wall where you need to do DPS, and it bricks you a little. So really interesting fight, looking fun, enjoying it, having a good time, great stuff, big fan of it. Then we got this guy, Rashanan, which I didn't mute, my bad. So this fight is interesting because it starts at 60%, which means that you're going to be in execute for a long time. Right now, tuning is kind of out the window, so best guess on how that's going to end up. And there's sort of 2 big mechanics. Oh my god, that's not the pause button. So the first one, you run out, you place these webs, right? On Mythic, they'll also stun you. Like, there's going to be random stuns that you have to kill. It basically puts you in a little cocoon. You got to kill the cocoon. And then mechanic number 2 is the rolling waves. There's going to be rolling waves that come out after this erosive spray, right here. And you'll see this is a little bit scuffed, but there's this thick line, and then there's a faint sort of particle around it. It's hard to see, but you get used to it a little bit. And so you see as they separate out. Maybe there's another one, but there's probably a better version later on. Here, let's try this one, maybe? Yeah. So you see how there's this thick line on the inside, and then kind of the foggy particle on the outside. That is the way the wave travels. So the wave will start on the thick line and then travel outward, right? And the other person has it traveling to the left, so the opposite direction. So you have to identify which side you are, right? Because this one's traveling to the right, the other one's traveling to the left. So you have to spread out, make sure the raid doesn't get hit, and then the waves will travel out. So here I'm in the middle, right? This is the safe spot for the raid. But the waves spawn because he didn't identify himself quick enough. So he ran in, and now he's hitting the wave onto the raid, and this is a big ticking dot, and people start taking damage, and it's really cringe. It's a little hard to see the mechanic. In practice, after a couple times, you sort of get used to it. But hopefully they update the visual a little bit on that to indicate, like maybe they change one to like a darker green and one to a lighter green. I don't know. It's just kind of hard to see. But I'll go back a little. After a timer, he flies away. So there's this big hole in the middle. We couldn't really tell a pattern. It was either he picks left or right. And then after picking left or right, he goes backwards. So here he's going to go left. And so you'll see he's here on the left. And so the next position he's going is back here. But it's basically just run, interrupt this this cast, and then he'll fly over. And now he's on the far end. And you kick again. We kicked late so that everyone had time to show up, because there's no reason not to. And fight repeats from there. You stand in this, it's a soak. If you don't have enough people standing in this, it'll yoink you off the platform, and it looks hilarious. I saw some hunters go flying, because they tried turtling it, and they just flew off the platform. But yeah, this was a very boring fight. This was also at the start. It spawns a bunch of ads. They're dead in like 3 seconds. It was a complete waste of time. But yeah, that's the entire fight, basically. It just repeats until the boss dies. There's no enrage or anything. I guess the room is supposed to fill up with the green puddles, but you never really have that issue. And at least with the health that he had, it was a complete joke. Like, we killed this boss, basically. This boss was at, like, 5% HP. And the room was maybe a third full. There's the pull, so we didn't have enough people in there, so it pulled a little bit, but we all survived. But, yeah, I don't really get it. Either the health needs to be, like, twice as high. If the health isn't twice as high, then, there's no real issue with the platform. There's nothing forcing you into the puddles. You just kind of run left and right, and there's always going to be a safe spot left and right, so it's whatever. Very strange. It is an earlier boss, so it's not that much of an issue, I guess. And here you see the fun bug that happened to me. These raised parts of the platform will just suck you through sometimes, because it's strange. And so I stood on a crack, and it just shoved me through. Strange, very strange boss. A little bit bugged, not a lot of health. Mechanics were pretty simple, but early boss, so I guess it's fine, maybe. I don't know. I don't really enjoy having very simple first bosses, because it feels like you push them over, and then you're just stuck re-clearing them constantly. I would prefer if, instead of a 700 pull boss, the penultimate boss, like a Tindril being 700 pulls, take 100 pulls off of Tindril and add it to something earlier in the raid. That makes more sense to me, at least. Make everything a 50 to 60 pull boss, instead of having 5 bosses that are 10 pulls and then 3 bosses that are 500. I don't know. But that's the entire fight. So, next. This is cool. This was a cool fight. But I have to kind of sell you on this a little bit. Because if I'm going to describe it to you, you're going to lose your mind and you're going to start wailing on it. Because it's so bad, and how could they? This is basically a mixture of Broodkeeper from Vault of the Incarnates. But it has elements from that one boss in Castle Nathria. Blanking on her name. The one with the taps that you had to, like, control, like, when you open the taps and stuff. People who play in Castle Nathria know. I don't need to harp on it. It looks like Cahoon. It's nothing like Cahoon. This is an ad fight through and through. But this is basically the improved Broodmother. So at the start, you'll see that the room is divided into thirds, and there's eggs all over the room. Now, these eggs do spawn their own unique things. So these tiny eggs spawn like swarmers. The medium egg spawns a stationary caster that you have to kick. And then the big one spawns like this big giant spider. I have Arachnophobia on because, you know, whatever. So they're crabs, but if you turn it off, it's spiders. And you have to basically break the eggs from the outside in. You cannot break them from the inside out because there's this tap here. And the boss will start drinking from the tap and it'll leak. And so the section that you're in, the third that you're in, is going to grow. You're going to run out of space. So here it goes to ingest the black blood, right? Little bit of a dodge thing that you have to do. It's not really too impressive. It doesn't... got hit by 4 of those, and it didn't proc sheet. Could be tuned higher. I just ate it for fun. But you'll see that it's going to start like trickling here, right? And so we need to kill these from the tap outwards so that we don't get screwed over by the room filling up. And so there's some strategies of like, okay, which ones are we breaking first? Are we breaking 2 of these, 1 of these? And if the mobs end up in this purple gunk, they get empowered, and you don't want that because that sucks. So there's a little bit of strategy involved, Broodkeeper style, but this is much, much cleaner, a much better version of Broodkeeper in my opinion. You don't have to make 2 groups. It was pretty cringe who goes where, and ad group and a boss group, and you have to keep them spread. No, this is all just straight AoE, kill the ads on top of the boss, pull the boss on top of them, like, just your stock standard AoE crankfest. With a little bit of planning involved from the raid, and a little bit of positioning requirements. It's a fun fight. It's a really fun fight. I enjoyed it. The ads were pretty squishy, though. I'm not sure if that was just heroic tuning or whatever. Or Word Up doing an insane amount of damage because Word Up is crazy. But overall, I really enjoyed this fight. It was a little bit weird from a rogue perspective, though, from an assassination perspective, because spreading your bleeds was very difficult, like, even during Carnage. Even with, like, 2 Vanish charges and stuff in Carnage, it still felt really awkward to spread your bleeds around. And Caustic was kind of doing its thing, but then the parasites, the, like, swarmers were dying so quick that it kind of devolved into, like, a 2 to 3 target cleave rather than, like, an AoE fight. Like, you had the worm, and then you had the big, crab, and then you had these parasites, and the parasites just melted. Again, not sure if that's just Word Up, or if that's, like, intended that they just melt. They fixate on targets, they auto them, so I guess so. But it really ended up being like a 2 to 3 target fight, with parasites just existing and melting to the just wood chipper that ended up being around the boss. Sudden Demise didn't feel too great either. I tried a lot of stuff. Crimson Tempest was okay, it was doing a lot of my damage. Singular Focus was bugged at the time, so it still doesn't work, but that could be an option here. That's pretty good. Here we see an empowered crab. They glow purple when they're in the muck. So that was messing us over. But yeah, overall this was a pretty fun fight as well. This is sort of in the middle of the raid, so it's not like a 1-to-1 of Broodkeeper. It's not a penultimate boss, but this is like an end of wing boss. So you can think of it like I don't know, like a Laridar or a Nimue. In that regard, positioning in raid. So I think it'll be tuned pretty hard, but overall the fight feels fine. It was easy to understand the mechanics. You had big spider needs to die. Small spiders get cleaved down, interrupt the caster. 2 casters kind of blows. Run this out so that you don't slow people who are trying to get to the eggs. Wow, I'm so slow today. And yeah, I mean that's basically the fight. You end up just running around, and then eventually you run out of room. Right? You got your 3 sections, and after the 3rd section, you run out of room. Now we were killing this boss real quick. So we never got to see the enrage really. We just kind of stopped DPS and just stood here. But yeah, eventually room fills up, supposedly. Fun fight. Anyways, next week is more raid testing. This week is warbands testing, I believe. So if you have beta and you want to test warbands and account-wide features and all that stuff, go ahead and do that. And then I'll have another video coming. It's already recorded, actually, about the findings simulation-wise. We have a starter APL for raid. M+ is still a work in progress because I have to merge some stuff in. But for now, we do have some raid APL stuff that is ready to go. Not a lot of changes, though, but quick video for people to kind of catch up on the newest findings. So that's going to be coming out soon. Then raid testing next week. More videos for that. Of course, if there's any major changes, I'll be here. And yeah, if you have questions, want to see something, let me know. I'm more than happy to record something or talk about something. I'm a yap god, so no problem with that. And yeah, have a good one. See ya.